Live from the Stability and Trim for the Ship's Officers podcast studio, where the vessel's its own best instrument of stability and trim. Welcome. This is William George. The license question of the day for April 24th, 2020 is, prior to reading an aneroid barometer, you should tap the face lightly with your finger to A. Expose any loose connections, B. Demagnetize the metal elements, C. Bring the pointer to its true position, D. Contract and expand the glass face. So reading the question again, prior to reading an aneroid barometer, you should tap the face lightly with your finger to, and the best answer is C. Bring the pointer to its true position. Now, a helpful hint for the day when you're studying license questions like this. You should get a group of 50 questions at a time. You should read all the questions aloud, but only read the correct answer. So the first time you read the 50 questions, it'll take you probably about 20 minutes. You don't have to rush. The next time you can go through all 50 questions reading only the correct answer. And the second time through, which should only take you about 12 minutes. And the third time, which you can read them as fast as you want, but only read the correct answer. It'll probably only take you about 6 minutes. And this method will basically sear the answers into your head that go with the question. You'll be able to recall them very easily in the future. And if you do 50 questions a day in 10 days, that means you've covered 500 questions when you're preparing for a license exam, which is a very positive thing to do. And I hope you find this useful. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Bye. Hello, this is William George, author of Stability and Trim for the Ship's Officers, 3rd and 4th editions. For almost 38 years as a marine cargo surveyor reviewing ship stability calculations, I've seen and learned a lot. Sadly, I've observed most ship's officer training is designed to answer license questions, not practical questions. What I've learned is the vessel is its own best instrument of stability and trim. I can teach you how to communicate with the vessel to get better results. Yes, you may have your license, but can you actually do the job as chief mate or master with confidence managing your vessel's stability and trim? My private lessons will fill the gaps that the license exam prep and required training does not cover. My goal for you is to be able to improvise solutions to any practical stability and trim problems with simple and straightforward methods, avoiding trial and error calculations using a vessel's loading computer. I do not want to take your loading computer away from you. I just want you to use it to check your direct solutions to practical problems and confirm you are in compliance with the limits placed on the vessel only the loading computer can do. For example, you receive an email from a vessel owner or charterer that asks, quote, "As soon as possible, what's the maximum cargo you can load at Seattle to transit the Panama Canal?" Unquote. Have you ever experienced any practical license exam questions that prepare you for this type of question? Do you know how to start to answer this question? What would you do first to answer this question? Well, for transiting the Panama Canal, the limiting factor is the Gatun Lakes. And what makes it a limiting factor is its tropical fresh water and a zero trim required, which will increase the vessel's draft as you go from seawater to tropical freshwater, and the trim will change because of the increase in draft. So how do you account for that? Well, to start, first thing you'd like to do is determine the required LCG at Gatun Lake, for starters. Remember, you can control the LCG, the trim, and the drafts, but not the hydrostatic properties of the vessel. Because Gatun Lake will be a limited condition, there will be a published maximum draft, and using that published maximum draft, you can use it to help determine the following. Do you realize no calculation is necessary to determine the required LCG at Gatton Lake? Too bad most schools do not teach and the license exam questions do not have questions based on this simple solution. Are you ready for it? If you use the zero trim hydrostatic data, the LCG required for zero trim equals the LCB for that draft. I'm sure you can remember that. You can do this. I can show you the simple things you need to know. This is an example of how my private lessons can change the way you see things. It's a paradigm shift. I simply show you what you actually need to know, when and how to calculate the solution. While my book is over 500 pages, all the core knowledge can be written on one single 8 by 11.5 inch sheet of paper. These are old school methods, and this is the stuff you really need to have in your head. What's meant by old school methods? Prior to the mid-1980s, computers were not on vessels nor used extensively ashore. Vessel masters, port captains, chief officers used practical, simple methods to achieve very exact and specific answers required to load vessels. With the advent of computers, people have quickly lost their skills, and today, sadly, most licensed masters and chief officers can barely calculate a vessel's initial stability, GM, manually. But they can't do a trim calculation without a computer. The goal of my private lessons is to show participants how much they really do know about basic stability and trim, as well as show them how to do advanced stability and trim calculations using old school methods to manage their vessel's stability, draft, and trim. These old school methods allow you to be able to improvise on the spot and get answers that can be confirmed with the vessel's loading computer without wasting time using trial and error methods. Private lessons can provide knowledge to meet your specific needs, from loading ships with maximum cargo, stability assessments of cranes on barges, heavy lift float-on and float-off marine construction, oil industry supply and towing vessels, commercial fishing vessels, or just a good complete review of stability and trim for vessel planners, port captains, and ship's officers. The same stability and trim principles apply to all vessels, no matter if it's a ship or a mobile offshore drilling unit. This personal instruction is not just for mariners. Civil and mechanical engineers doing heavy construction on the water using cranes and barges have found my workshops very useful also, and they may be able to use it for continuing education credits. Starting in May 2020, there will be a limited number of accepted into this individual online private lessons, delivering instruction and training live via Zoom. Consider enrolling now to ensure you do not have to wait to start your private lessons. You're encouraged to use the stability data you normally use. If you cannot access your vessel's stability data or loading manual, I have them here for you to use. Do not be left out. Enroll now. If you make a living on the water, managing your vessel's stability and trim, you just can't afford to miss a chance for private lessons with me. Because these are private lessons, the hours available are limited due to personal schedules and time zones. If you're interested, contact me at williamegeorge@gmail.com or message me on LinkedIn. The private lessons are there's a $20 registration fee to start, and they cost $40 per half hour for instruction. Private lessons are paid in advance with PayPal. If you have any questions, please contact me, and just remember, your vessel's talking to you. Are you listening? Thank you.